Hello and welcome to World Cardmaking Day with the Paper and Ink Boutique. My name is Julia and I am just showing you the 4 cards that I will be making with you today. We will be decorating the inside of the cards too. Now I will be having 4 separate videos clearly marked with which cards you'll be making. And on video 4 is when we will go through and I will show you the inside decorating of each of these cards. So we won't be decorating them once we do the outside, but when we get to the very end of all 4 cards, I will quickly go through and show you the decorating of the inside. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy making these cards with me today. Hello. First, we're going to start off with some prep for all 4 cards. I want you to take this 12 by 12 pattern paper, and I would like you to cut all 4 images apart. So you will be left with 4 6 by 6 images. So you can go ahead, grab out your trimmer, and trim these 4 apart. And then we'll move on to the next portion. Okay, please grab out your ephemera pack. I am going to show you which sentiments we will be using for my cards. So you can grab out the ones that say, "Be kind always," "Peace and love," "Don't look back," "You aren't going that way," and "You are amazing." So go ahead and grab those out. We're also going to be using some superfine clear embossing powder. I'm also going to be using some diamond medium, but you can use whatever embossing ink that you have. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to apply the embossing medium over top of all of my sentiments there. I like doing this with the Simply Stated sentiments because they are not on a heavy chipboard, so I feel like this kind of gives them a little bit more weight. Plus, I really like the glossy look of them. Just looks really good on the front of your card. So I'm going ahead and I'm putting all of the diamond medium over top of all 4. Okay, I'm just going to move these over just to a piece of chipboard that I use for my heat embossing. So I'm just going to move those over there. Okay, now I'm going to take my superfine Wow Clear Gloss embossing powder and I'm just going to dump it over top of all 4. Being quite generous there. Okay, I'm going to give that a bit of a shake to make sure I've got embossing powder on top of all of those sentiments. I'm going to take some tweezers, shake off that excess, and set each of them out on the side. Now, I'm not going to pour the rest of that embossing powder, that extra embossing powder, back in the jar just yet, because I'm actually going to do 3 layers of the embossing powder just to make sure that it's on there very thick. Okay, time to heat set. Okay, so we're going to heat set our embossing powder. And then while that embossing powder is still hot, I'm then going to take it and you're going to see me dip it back in to that loose embossing powder. There we go, re-dipping while that embossing powder is still hot. You don't need to reapply your embossing ink in between layers. You can just dip it back in. I'm going to reheat, and I'm going to do this one more time. So we're going to get 3 layers of the embossing powder heat set on there, and I am going to repeat this process with the other 3 sentiments. So you can go ahead and do that now. Now this step is optional. If you do not want to do this, you don't have to. You can just leave your sentiments just the way they are. Maybe you want to use some glossing glaze from Spellbinders to do this. There are other ways to achieve this look. I just chose to use embossing powder, but you can also just leave them just in their regular state. So you can go ahead and do this step now, or fast forward to the next step where we move on. Okay, so I'm giving you one more close-up look of the finished card that we have there. So you are going to grab these two 6x6 pattern papers. We're going to use 2 of them. So grab those out, and we are also going to be needing a top fold A2 size card base. So you can use one of the white sheets of paper that you got in your kit, and you can create that card base there. Okay, so take that wood paneling pattern paper, and we're going to trim that down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and make sure you save those scraps that you're cutting off because we will be using those in later videos. Now grab a nesting rectangle die set. I'm using the Prism Studio stitched rectangles, but use whatever nesting die set that you have. The die that I'm using is 4 1/2 by 3 1/4, and when centered on that panel that we just cut, it's going to leave a 1/2 inch around each side, creating the frame for us. So you can go ahead. I'm just using my centering ruler here just to make sure everything is centered top, bottom, and side to side. But if you're using the same size die that I am, you will have a 1/2 inch on each side. So you can go ahead and do that now. I am using some of the Best Ever Craft tapes from Spellbinders just to make sure that that die is not going to shift on me, so I'm just carefully placing that on there. I'm not pressing the tape down too hard because I want to be able to peel it back like I am there. So after I put it through my die cut machine, I'm just going to take that out, and that panel that we die cut out, you're going to save that because we're going to use that on another card. So make sure you carefully peel that tape off and save that panel. So now we've created our frame. And now we're going to use that exact same die on the other piece of paper. And this is the one with that kind of misty tree in the tree background. Now I want you, ignore what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. I want you to place it on the left-hand side, closer to the top. We're going to cut out that portion of this paper. And then what is left, we are going to use on another card. So again, whatever scraps you have after doing any of your die cutting, make sure you keep them because we're going to be using those on some of our other cards. So you can see I'm just putting it on the left-hand side, and I'm just die cutting out that portion there. We've got some of the tree line and some of the sky. So I'm just die cutting off screen right now. And there we go. So carefully remove that tape. And then that panel that we just die cut, you're going to use this on this card. I did take a little bit of that paper off, but we're not going to be using that portion there, so I'm not too worried about it. So that piece of paper that you have left of this pattern, make sure you put in your scrap pile because we're going to be using that. Okay, so now we have our frame, and now we have our frame insert. There is our top fold A2, and we have our sentiment, which is peace and love. We're going to use that one. And now I want you to look through your ephemera, and we're going to pick out 2 of the fairies. So I will give you a close-up here in just a moment, but you're looking for one of the fairies who has the wheel, the cog wheel to her right, and then the other one that I'm showing you there. I don't know how to describe them, but you're going to grab those 2 fairies out of your ephemera, and those are the ones we're going to use for this card. Now I'm going to be using these. Now if you have Wink of Stella works really well as for this, but I'm using some Nuvo Aqua Shimmer, and I'm using Midas Touch and Glitter Gloss. Those are the 2 pens that I'm using here. I'm going to use the Glitter Gloss, which would be equivalent to the Wink of Stella Clear Shimmer. And I'm going to put that on the wings of these fairies. So I'm just going to go ahead and add those to the wings. I'm just going to give you a bit of a closer look here. Now with the Aqua Shimmer pen, I'm going to make sure that I give it a really good shake. Make sure that all of that shimmer is equally distributed in that pen so that I get a nice look there. But I'm going to put this clear gloss on the fairy wings. So you can see me going ahead and doing that. Now you may have noticed with your ephemera pieces, they do have a white edge. And sometimes I like that, and sometimes it doesn't work for me. So I'm taking the Midas Touch Aqua Shimmer pen from Nuvo, and it is this gorgeous gold color. And I'm going around the outside of these fairies on that white edge. So it's not going to cover up the white, but it's going to leave this really nice gold glittery edge to them. And I'm going to do this with both of my fairy pieces. Pretty much wherever there's white, I'm just going to go over and add some of this glitter gold to them. So that is what I'm doing here. Now you may have a similar product in your stash that you can use, such as Wink of Stella. But I'm just going through and just adding a bit of shimmer because, you know, fairies need a little bit of shimmer. And I'm doing this on both. Now, the fairy that you see there on the left, the bigger fairy, she's actually going to be used on the inside of our card. So when you're done here, when you're done this card, and make sure she's dry first, just slip her inside that card for safekeeping, and we will get to the inside decorating at the end of all 4 cards. So there you go. I'm just going to tip that in the light so you can see that gorgeous shimmer. Ooh, so pretty. Love the gold shimmer. Okay, so this is the background. This is that tree background. Now you may have already noticed it's already got the shimmer on there. Yeah, I wasn't pressing record, so I'm kind of going back in and just showing you what I did. I am using the Midas Touch Aqua Shimmer pen from Nuvo, and I am just adding some just to the branches of the trees. So you can see me doing that there. And when you're done applying this aqua shimmer, you either want to take your heat tool to dry it, or you want to set it aside and let it air dry. But I'm just adding that, and you can see me tip it in the light, and it just looks so nice. It just adds this magical touch to it. So here you can see me just going ahead and just hitting that with some heat just to give it a quick dry there. It doesn't take that long to dry. Now, on the sky portion of this, I did use a glitter splatter. You can also use the Aqua Shimmer Midas Touch. I have from Yasutomo the pale gold paint, and we sell this at the store. It's lovely. We sell it in white, rose gold, and silver, and I have all of them, and I love them all. So I just gave that sky portion just a splatter of gold just to add a little bit more magic to it. And before I'm finished, I am bringing in that frame that we created, and I'm also giving that just a splatter of the gold paint as well. I love a good splatter on any of my projects. Absolutely love it. So there we are, just adding that gold splatter there. And then once you're done all of these pieces, whether you're adding some of the shimmer pen or some of that gold splatter, you're just going to want to make sure that you wipe up your surface so you don't get that transferred on anywhere else, and give everything a good dry to make sure nothing is going to smear on you as you're moving them around. So I'm just going to give these just a quick dry, and then we will get on to the assembly of our card. Okay, once you have your pieces and they are all assembled, or sorry, all dry, now it's time to do our assembly. Now that outer frame, we're going to be popping up on that base. So I didn't want to see any of that white card underneath. So I'm taking some distress ink in frayed burlap, and I'm taking a blender brush, and I'm just going to blend it right along that edge, just so when I pop up that frame, you can't see any of that white. So like I said, I'm using frayed burlap, but you can look at whatever ink that you have in your stash, a color that kind of goes with that background that we're creating there, that frame. Gathered twigs would be good. Vintage photo would be good. It doesn't have to be distress ink. Just use any color in your stash that you think would look nice on that background. And you don't have to do the entirety of the card. I am only doing that edge. That's the only thing that you're going to see. So you can go ahead and do that. Okay, now that our ink is dry, it's going to start assembling our pieces. So our frame, we're going to want to use some 3D foam because we're going to pop it up on there. So you can grab some 3D foam, put it around all 4 edges, and then we are going to put it on our base. So that frame is A2 size, and our card is A2 size, so it is going to go top to bottom, side to side, and you're just going to see that ink just under that edge. But once you get it on, you're going to see what a difference that makes. Now, you maybe decided not to do the inking, and that is absolutely fine, just a personal choice. But I find it makes just a bit of a difference for me anyhow. So I've gone ahead and I've put some 3D foam on there. And I'm just going to pull off that release paper, and I am going to carefully center it onto my card base. Great, we have that frame on there. Now you want to check and make sure that you do have the top fold of your card at the top before putting in your center. So I'm using liquid glue to do this, but you can use double-sided tape if you like. I like the liquid glue because it gives me a little bit of working time to move this piece of paper around. So I'm just going to slide that piece of paper in. I'm starting at the top, and then I'm going to run my fingers right along the edge, and that dyed cut piece is going to slide right in there. I'm just running my nail along there just to pop that in there. But there we go. Now our insert is all in. I'm going to press down, make sure everything is in completely down and adhered to my card base. Okay, so now it is time to grab our other ephemera pieces on the outside. So we're going to grab that fairy piece, and she's going to go in the lower left corner, and I'm going to put some 3D foam on the side that is going to be down into that background, and I'm going to put liquid glue on the other side that's going to be stuck to the frame. So I'm just going to take that release paper off. I'm going to put some liquid glue just on that one side. There we go. And then we're going to stick her down into that lower left corner. So once we have our little fairy down into that corner, the last thing we have to do for the front of this card is grab that sentiment, and I've got peace and love. I'm going to use my tweezers here just because this is a bit of a smaller piece. I'm going to grab it with my tweezers. And again, I'm going to use some liquid glue. I'm going to apply a little bit on the back there. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over, and my sentiment is going to go right along the bottom of that fairy. And it's going to kind of cover up that very bottom edge of that piece of ephemera. And then once you have that stuck down, the outside of card number 1 is done. Thanks so much, everyone. Now on to card number 2.